Right, we struggle with light again. No. Ay. Is it okay? No. Oi. Wait. Oh, can you please just don't fall? Okay, let's give it a try. Hello everyone, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel after 4 months. I cannot believe I finally sit in front of the camera because I must confess that I know I promised a video for you in July already, and I must say that past 2 weekends, I think last 2 weekends in July, I indeed did have a time for filming finally, but for some reason I wasn't able to film. I don't know if this ever happened to you, if you had, you know, like longer break from filming or from booktube channel or whatever channel, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I could film today, and then you set up your camera as I did, and then 2 weeks later you find your camera sitting in the corner of your living room and like, why didn't I film already? But that was my case. For some reason I wasn't really able to sit in front of the camera and do it, but I'm here finally and I'm super excited because I do want to speak about books so much, and I was missing this community so much, which also leads me to 2 things I would like to say at the beginning. And the first one is massive thank you to everyone, to people who are new here, who came here very recently, because I think back in March, which is not that recently anymore, but I hit 700 subscribers, which for me it's still a big number, and after all this time, after several months, the number of the subscribers is kind of same. Sometimes there is more than 700, sometimes there is a little bit less, which is absolutely okay, but I wanted to say thank you and hello and welcome to everyone who is new here, and also especially to people who are still here or who came back. Thank you so much, and also to my lovely fellow booktubers and subscribers who during this time sent me messages and voice messages, and you reached out and you asked how I'm doing, is everything is okay, and how is the channel going, or if it's ever gonna be here again. Because I appreciate it so much, and it made me so happy to be able to communicate with you over this period of silence from my side, unfortunately. So thank you so much. And I was thinking that today's video could be a little bit, maybe just a catch-up. I don't really know how it's gonna go because it feels weird to be sitting in front of the camera again, as I said, but I thought I would give you a little bit an overview or maybe introduction for those of you who are new here, and to give you a little of catch up of what happened over the past few months. So if you remember, back in February I got this job offer to come back to Slovakia, where I'm originally from, to work here, and I spent last altogether I think 6 years in Scotland with little breaks, going home, visiting and stuff, and I was still in Scotland in February, and then in the mid-March I moved back to Slovakia because of my work, and from that time my life completely shifted because of course it was about getting used to, you know, being home again. And yeah, that will be typical for longer, which I'm not gonna be bothering you with, but I just thought the transition would be very easy because it's still me going home, you know, like somewhere where I was born, when I lived for most of my life so far. But the transition was actually super difficult, and I wasn't really able to adjust that easily as I thought I would be. And yeah, like with the new job, it just happened so much of it, and it consumed all my time. And plus, because I've been living alone for 6 years, or obviously with some flatmates of mine, coming back to my parents' house again after such a long time and living there with my sister and with my parents was also a little bit like, wow, that's really new. So I was also looking for my own place, which consumed some of my time. And then at the end of June I managed to go back to Scotland again for 10 days because I still had some of my stuff there, and I also wanted to be with my friends again for a wee while, and also to travel a little bit, which I managed to do, and I was super happy. So I might post little pictures here and there because I finally went to Isle of Skye, but it was so foggy I could not see a thing, like literally even Old Man of Store, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. So anyway, that's another reason for me to come back. But yeah, I managed to do a little bit of traveling, and I was super happy with that. And after that, when I got here back, next day I took keys from this new place of mine, and this is the first time I'm not living with a flatmate, so it was again a little bit of adjustments. Yes, so a lot have been happening over the past 4 or 5 months now. It's August already. Wow, I don't know how that happened. But anyway, please let me know in the comments, how are you doing? I hope everyone is doing well and you're okay, and yeah, that you have time for reading and relaxing, and also you're all safe and well. And also I was thinking of doing a little Q&A actually, which I know might be a little bit weird because I know people are doing Q&As especially when they hit 1000 subscribers. But I thought, why not? Because I would still like to celebrate that I did hit 700 indeed. Might not be the case right now, it might be the less people, but it really doesn't matter. But I thought I never done Q&A on my channel, and I don't think even on Instagram. So if there is anyone new and you have some questions to ask regarding the channel or myself maybe, honestly feel free to submit them in the comments or write me direct message again or through Voxer or on Instagram, and maybe during next week I'll post a little like what is it called, like poll on Instagram where you can submit your question into the box. You know what I mean. Yeah, I'm a little hyper again and excited, but anyway, so now finally let's talk about books, and I'm really hoping I have been focused this time because the light is not the greatest today. It's been really sunny in the morning and suddenly the rain appeared and it's very dark, so if I was unfocused this whole time I'm gonna be very sad. But anyway, my friends, let's talk about the books finally, and I might be occasionally looking there because I want to know I'm in focus, and also the lighting is horrible. I have ring light right here, so anyway. So, and also I brought my slot mug from Scotland because of course I did. So the book number 1 is called If I Can't Have You by Charlotte Levin. I think that's her name, and I read this book back in the end of March, so it's been very long time, and I think in general with this video the review I will give you will be very short because unfortunately I did not really have time to even keep up with my reading journal, so I wasn't really writing that many notes about the books I was reading. So very briefly from my memory, I would like to say that I really enjoyed this book. It's a thriller sort of a book, maybe not as creepy or scary as some people would expect, because if you know me, you know I do not read thrillers very much or horror genre or these kind of things, but I found this book on the wonderful channel called Mason in the Dark, and if you are not familiar with the channel yet, I highly recommend you will be familiar because it's absolutely great channel with great videos about books, and he recommended this book. I think it's gonna be 2 years maybe by now, but when I saw that book I thought that could be interesting as my first thriller, and it really was. I really did enjoy it. It's about this young girl Constance who moves from Manchester to London because her relationship ended and she wanted to start anew, and in London she starts to work in hospital at reception, at least I hope I remember it correctly, and she falls in love with a doctor, and it's a story of basically following this relationship and how she slowly become obsessed with the man and how that kind of causes or like how that affects her life from now onwards. And it's very interesting because it points to many different things regarding like relationships and maybe obsessions and how one behaves towards one another, and also it's not as it seems to be on the first sight. And I really enjoyed it. It was the first time where I really felt like I am angry with some character, which doesn't happen that often. Obviously, like when I read books I do feel a lot for characters, but most of the time it's like, oh, I'm so happy for them, or oh, I'm so sad. But now literally some characters were making me angry, and if you read the book you might as well guess who was it. So I'm not gonna give you any spoilers, but if you maybe are like me and you would like to try some thriller, this is a very good point to start because it's not like creepy or scary, but it does have a little bit of like a suspicion and tension, and it's very good one. So highly recommend you this one. And then the second one I have my list here is this wonderful book which made me super happy, Surrender. Hope you can see it. And this is an autobiographical book by Bono, and I had this as a buddy read with lovely subscriber of mine called Fernando, and we were reading this over a Voxer, and I absolutely loved this. I purchased this book at the beginning of the year in Scotland when I was still there, and I started to read it as a physical book, but then Fernando, he was so lovely because he sent me the audiobook he had, and that was the best decision ever. If you haven't read this book and you're planning to, please do yourself a favor and listen to it as audiobook, because I really wanted to own this copy like physical, and I probably will get back to reading it again physically, but having it on audio, it's absolutely brilliant experience because he is narrating, obviously he is narrating it himself, and there is also like bits and pieces from his song and there is music as well, and it's just absolutely wonderful testimony of his life and the way he speaks about his wife Ali and the life they built together, and how important it is for shaping him and his life, and how it affected also, well, basically his whole life, because you know I love stuff like this. It was absolutely wonderful, and what I also appreciated is him being very honest about faith and the relationship he has with God, because I feel like it's not something that people talk about very often, even if they maybe, you know, are Christians or if they believe in God in general. They do not really go into details about this kind of relationship very often, but he really speaks openly about it, and that's something I really enjoy, because you can clearly see how also this shaped who he is, and despite all the success he had, he still kind of remained grounded. And it was very unexpected to read about some of the things that happened to him in his life, but I enjoyed so much. So if you haven't read this book yet, please do. And I know I'm very late to the party, because probably everyone already read this book and I'm just giving review now, but oh well, very much love this book. Then another book I have on my list is Did I Ever Tell You This, which is another autobiographical book by Sam Neill, and I had this as audiobook as well, and I did enjoy it a little bit less than this one, but still it was lovely. It was quite long one, I think it was like 12 hours in total, but I enjoyed it very much. I do like actor a lot, but from one movie which probably most of you do not know, but I highly recommend that you will have a look, because obviously I know him from Jurassic Park and from many other movies as well, but for me the movie which I grew up with was I think it was 1990, I don't remember exactly, but like 19's movie called Merlin, and it was in two films, like two parts, and it was absolutely wonderful movie which we had on the VHS tapes and with Slovak dubbing, and I was watching it so much that we literally destroyed the VHS tape, and I memorized all the dialogues and monologues to the point that when the VHS tape was basically destroyed, I could not get my hands on the like copy with the Slovak dubbing, because later on it became with Czechish dubbing, and I was remembering every line so much that I was unable to watch it in any other language than Slovak. So I actually haven't seen this movie for like years and years and years, and yet I still remember it, and I would love to watch it, but I tried in English a couple times, but it's weird because I can hear all the things in Slovak, if you know what I mean. Anyway, it's a wonderful movie. If you haven't seen it, do it and let me know if you did and what you think of it. And so this was a book about Sam Neill, his autobiography, which was also very interesting, as I said, but I would say that I was kind of very much looking forward for the moment when he would be talking about this movie as well, and experience about working on the movie, and there was maybe like 2 sentences about, oh yeah, I was also in this movie, and I'm like, no. So, but other than that, obviously he was talking about his life and family and all the work he done regarding movies, and also what is very interesting is that through the whole this book he is basically fighting a cancer, and he's also dipping in this this time of his life as well, and describing the experiences he is having with that. So it's very interesting, and I would recommend you to read this book or listen to it if you like this actor or any of his movies, because it was very lovely experience. And then another book I had, and was audiobook as well, because audiobooks saved my life recent months, and it's 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I don't think that I need to speak too much about this book, because I'm pretty sure everyone read this at this point, and I really liked it. I would give it like 5 out of 5 stars. Maybe the ending for me was slightly predictable, and then I was like, oh, really? I was hoping that there would be some different, like resolution other than what I was thinking, but still I really enjoyed, and having the atmosphere of, like old movies and old Hollywood and all this world, I really liked that, and I also liked the way how it was narrated. The narrator was really great. I'll try to check the name. So I did really enjoy it. It's a story about a young woman who is a journalist, and she is assigned to do an interview with this woman, Evelyn Hugo, who was a very successful and probably most famous woman in whole Hollywood. And through that she becomes to write her life story. And one thing which slightly annoyed me was, I think, actually the main character, the journalist, because at some points I'm like, you're obviously very good, very lovely, but sometimes I don't like when people are portrayed kind of like silly in the books. So even here, when she discovered that she's gonna be well, hopefully I'm not giving too much of spoilers. If yes, then maybe skip 10 seconds. But when she decided, or when she discovered that she's going to write her book, her biography, and then she was asking like 50 times, oh, so you mean me writing an article but longer, or you mean me writing a book but you will be writing it, and just, you know, kind of making her look like she still cannot believe it, because she's like, oh, I don't really think I deserve to write a book, which, yeah, I get it with all the stuff that's been going on in her life and her maybe low self-confidence, but in the same time asking all these questions again, and I'm like, woman, just wake up. Yes, you're gonna write a book. So yes, end of spoilers. So but other than that, I really did enjoy the book, and I think I had listened to it within like 2 days or something. And then another book which I read, and I have it right here, is this one, beautiful continuation. How do you say? The book two. The book two from, first one was called Anatomy, a Love Story, and this is Immortality, a Love Story. I hope you can see it. Absolutely stunning covers for both books by Dana Schwartz, and this was a book which I read within less than 2 days. I think I took it to the beach with me when I was back in Scotland, and I also bought this book there because I wanted to get this in Slovakia already, but we only had it in like paperback, and I do not normally care about if my, you know, like book and series match together. I don't really care, but the first one has such a lovely cover like this, but kind of in pink, and I really wanted to have the same type of, you know, like the style of the book. So I was waiting to go to Scotland, and then I bought it there and I read it within like day or two, and I did really enjoy it. As I said, like the first book is about Hazel, the main character who is living in Edinburgh in, I think it's 18th century, and she wants to become a doctor, but it's not very easy, obviously, because of the time she's living in. And then in order to be able to go to like exams to become a doctor, she needs to study somehow, but obviously the male doctors are not letting her to go to study this properly. So she meets this young man, Jack, who works as a, is it like resurrection man? So basically he's digging like dead bodies from the graves, and through his friendship she managed to get her hands on dead bodies to study them, and that's how she can get ready for her exams. So yeah, it's very interesting, and there is so much more happening on the side, and this book is like the sequel, so it's like a continuation, because I'm actually thinking how to speak about this, because I don't want to spoil anything and even give you stuff away from the first book. So I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna say I very much enjoyed it, same as the first book. And if you like, you know, like the atmosphere of old Edinburgh and woman becoming a doctor, and this whole beautiful world of like 1800s, and especially old Scotland and the romance and a little bit of gothic and mystery, go and read this. And also the cover is stunning. I love it so much. Right, and I think those were like 5 books which I managed to read completely, and now I would like to move some other books which I was reading but I did not finish yet. And the first of those books is called 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. I think many people, and especially in the UK, are familiar with Jay Shetty. Maybe not so much in Slovakia, I think, but I think in the UK and obviously in America he is quite popular. He wrote several books already, and it's mostly about like self-development, and he used to live as a monk, and also written a book, Think Like a Monk, I think, which I would like to read at some point. And this is another book of his in which he is talking about love and different forms of love, and how basically we can navigate through the relationship to make them better. And it's a book which I was curious to read because it's the new one that came out, and recently I've been, as I said, listening to his podcast quite a lot, and it's very interesting. He has different guests coming there, and I really enjoy listening to him, so I thought I would give this a go. But the reason why I did not finish the book yet is because I was having it as an ebook on my phone, and I was reading it just as I had time, you know, for example at work during the breaks and stuff, and I felt like I cannot really focus because it's not, you know, like a fictional book, but it's something you could be thinking more if you wanted to. And also there are a little bit of exercises and practical things you can do, and or you can, you know, try to think about. So I think it's good to read this book when you do actually have like proper time, and as you know by all of everything I told you already, I did not really have that much time to focus on these kind of things. So it's unfinished for now, but I think I will get back to it eventually. And then another book which I have like that is called, I think it's Invisible Life of Addie Larue. I even forgot. Oh, sorry, I put the name here. And I had this as audiobook, and I was listening to this as I was going to Inverness for a little trip. And I was listening to this, but for some reason I could not really get into the book. I'm hoping I will still listen to it at some point because the premise sounds interesting, and it's about this girl who I think she didn't want to get married, so she made some deal with gods or something, and she wanted to kind of be her own person and not be able to answer anything to anyone. But what happened was that this god who made a deal with her made her kind of invisible for people in her life, and if something happens to her, like people are not remembering her next day or something like this. So it's been a couple months since I was listening to it, so I do not remember it properly, but as I said, it sounds really interesting and I would like to listen to this book, so maybe once again. So yes, my friends, those are all the books I was dealing with in the past few months, and I would like to talk about few books which I'm currently reading. And the first one, I don't know where did I put it, but anyway, I'll just pop a picture here, and it's called Madly Deeply, which is a book by, well, it's not by Alan Rickman, but this is basically Diaries of Alan Rickman published. And I purchased this book, as you know, if you've been following me on Instagram, many months ago, and I think it might have been even like the end of the last year or just when the book came out, but I still have no time. Well, I did have time to read it, but what happened was that as I was leaving Scotland in mid-March, I had to leave quite a lot of my stuff there because I wasn't able to obviously take everything at once with me. So this was in my suitcase in Scotland until the end of June when I came there for my trip and I took my suitcase. And now I'm buddy reading this with lovely Kelly, and I'm super excited to read this because I love Alan Rickman obviously and his movies. So far I'm maybe 20 pages in and I do enjoy it, but I just wish that there would be a little bit more of context, because if you read the book already, which I believe many of you did, I feel like I'm talking too fast. Anyway, sorry, I'm just too excited. So I feel like so far the notes or like the pieces of the journal which are taken, they are really written just sort of like just few sentences per day and mostly like points, which is fine, but I would like to have like more context and more stuff what's been happening, and I assume this is how Alan Rickman used to write, which is another thing, like I don't really know how to feel about this, because even at the introduction there was written that we don't really know how Alan Rickman would feel about having his diaries published, and I'm like, well, maybe then don't. Like, I know the whole world wants to know what was in his head, but I have been writing diaries my entire life, literally from the point when I learned how to write until this day. Like even this morning I was journaling and writing in my diary. And I cannot imagine someone would reading at some time, like even after I'm dead. Like I don't really know what I'm gonna do with all those diaries at some point, but I cannot really imagine someone would publish it. So yeah, I don't really know how I feel about it, but obviously I'm gonna read it because yeah, I'm curious. And then the second book I've been reading is this one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Is it in focus? Yes, and I got this book last year, I think, for my name day from my mom. And if you don't know what the name day is, I actually made a video last year about this topic, so you can watch it. I'll link it up here. And let me know if you celebrate name days in your country and where are you watching from. So I got this book from my mom because she knows how much I love film stuff, because I did study filmmaking and I work in like production and stuff. And she thought that this is a book where they're talking more about like Tarantino's movies, and it's got kind of like, you know, like educational stuff, and she did not realize that it's about this movie he did, which I still haven't seen. So I'm taking the approach of reading a book and then I would like to watch the movie anyway. So, and I'm just laughing because so far, which from what I read, like I'm somewhere here, I'm just laughing about, you know, how Tarantino is always pushing feet everywhere in his movie, and even in books it's very obvious that he just like feet, and it's weird because yeah. But just finding that even when he writes a book, it's still there, it's kind of interesting. Right, my friends, and there is one more book which I started to read like months ago. I think it was already in April. Absolutely wonderful, stunning cover, and I wasn't able to finish this book for some reason. Like I don't know, like if it was for the reason that maybe I was a little bit too distracted, as I said, with everything. But I remember still reading this when I started to listen to Addie Larue, and I feel like maybe these two books became a little bit similar in my head, so I decided to put this one down and listen to audiobook, and then I realized that I'm not that much intrigued by the audiobook, so I stopped listening to that. Oh yeah, my hand is shining right now because of the ring light. I need to calm down. So yeah, and I did not finish this book, but I would very much love to, because obviously it mentions fairies and these little creatures which I love so much, and I just wish I could be friends with them if they are somewhere here anyway. So yeah, this is a book which I'm not gonna be talking too much because obviously I still haven't read even half of it, but if I do, I'll do a wrap up about it. So these are 3 books which I'm currently reading, also with Alan Rickman, which I have somewhere here, but I don't know where exactly. And that's me about the books for today, my friends. Thank you so much for being here and watching this video, and especially if you watch my ramble until this point, because yeah, and if there are any questions you would like to ask regarding, as I said, honestly anything, just send them here or comments or anywhere. And please let me know if you read any of these books I just mentioned, or if you're about to, or just anything related, and I would love to be able to yeah, speak with you more again. And I'm hoping that now I will have time to post video regularly, so there's hope, and also that I will be able to catch up with some of your videos, so I'll do my best to do it in next couple of days and weeks, but it might take a little while. So anyway, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Take care, and hopefully I will see you with another video very soon again. Bye bye.